You know, I think as long as there have been humans, there have been older humans criticizing younger humans for how they are spending their money. Probably the Neanderthals were saying, you know, why do you need so many rocks? Now there's people like Dave Ramsey who are famous for saying, you know, it's too much avocado toast. People are spending too much money on avocado toast. Before avocado toast, it was lattes. You know, and I, as a Gen Xer, have looked at my millennial children and say, like, why are you spending money on DoorDash? How hard is it to just go get takeout at the restaurant? I don't personally remember being criticized by my parents or my grandparents for how I spent my money. Actually, we didn't really talk about money at all. But my husband and I have talked about how our parents and grandparents have spent or not spent their money, particularly our grandparents. And I said, you know, why is it that my grandma, who came here alone with 3 children during World War II, managed to work a very blue-collar job as a cook at a university, and she managed to buy a house to finish raising her 3 children in, and why my husband's grandparents, who worked 2 very normal jobs at AT&T, also bought a house, but then bought property and built a cabin on a lake, and then eventually bought a condo in Hawaii and had the condo and the house on the lake still at the same time. And why that scenario seems really super out of reach for me. And just owning a house, working kind of your regular standard job, seems like it's going to be very challenging for my children. Have you ever reflected on this? How does your spending compare to your parents at the same age or your grandparents' spending at the same age? So I'm sure, well, I know that there's systemic issues at work, price of real estate, the way workers are compensated, etc., etc. But in today's video, I'm just looking at what I can control and thinking, how is my budget different than my grandparents' budget? And I'm particularly going to be looking at that single immigrant mother of 3, and how the budget I have in my 50s compares to the budget she had in her 50s. And some of it is speculative, but I was very close. I went into my grandma's many times a week. I knew the daily operations of her house. And so I do think I can make an educated assumption about what she was spending money on. And then there's some things like savings and investing. I have no idea what she was doing. So I'm only going to be looking at this video through the spending lens and comparing my budget, which I share every month, my budget plan and my budget results, and compare that budget to my Omi's budget. Back when she was in her 50s, and let's see, that would have been in the 1970s. I'm curious to see how different the budget will be. Now, I don't know their giving or their savings and investing outcomes. I know, for example, one of my categories of giving is to save for my granddaughter's college, and that's not something my grandparents did, whether they were able to or not. I think there just wasn't this concept that we have to save for our grandchildren, because it wasn't really that expensive to go to college. Back in the day, it was easier to work your way through college, and people weren't having all these student loans. So it wouldn't even have been on their radar whether or not they chose to or not. It wasn't so worrisome, whereas I think of my grandchild going to college, I'm thinking we better all be saving really quick or she's going to have these student loans. So that's something from the giving category that was different. And of course that would vary a lot among families, but for me, we're saving $166 a month for my granddaughter. Okay, but let's look under bills and being an adult. So property taxes, all of my grandparents owned their home. My grandma did have support. I'm not sure of the details, but they were immigrant family. My grandma was a single mom of 3, but she had her mom living with her at some times, and she had support from her sons as they were young men working just to get the down payment for the house, I know at least. So they did have more of this like family support that sometimes is missing a little bit in our American culture, but more common to immigrant populations from just my personal experience. So she would have had property taxes. She would have had a water bill, electricity bill. She would not have had mobile phone bill because there were not mobile phones really when she was in her 50s. Garbage, would have had landline, internet. She would not have had. She did not take out any loans. I took out a loan on my house to build the school, so it's kind of unique to me. I don't have a mortgage any longer, basic mortgage any longer, and when she was in her 50s, she did not either. She had paid that off already. She did not. I'm really comparing this to my grandma because I know the most about her. She did not have a car. She never got a driver's license. She took the bus downtown to the university, and so she would have had a bus pass, so that would have been a lot less, and she had good health care through her work, her groceries. She in her 50s, she would not have been supporting any of her children, so her grocery bill would have been a lot less, but she still would have had a grocery bill, so I'm not going to adjust that. But she would have only had the home insurance because she didn't have the car, right? And she did not have life insurance. She did not have a car loan. So we'll add this up, put that here. And then to live a content life, I don't know how much she spent on guilt-free spending. I'm sure she spent on some of those things. She would not have had any of the digital subscriptions like Spotify or Netflix or things because they did not exist really. Pet care would have been a lot less because she was not sending her dog to Camp Good Puppy. She would have had free TV. She could have eaten out, and a new oven is just this month. So I'll add up those expenses here. And then also, I just wonder what my grandma thinks when she looks down on me that I'm paying someone to clean my house once a month. That is something that she definitely did not do. Okay. So I'm going to add all these up, and let's see what we come up with. Okay, so that's how my budget compares to, in particular, my one grandma's budget when she was my age. Okay, so I just looked up the numbers, and that amount that I don't spend every month would have been worth $15,817 in 1975. Is this for real? All right, if we haven't met yet, I'm Julie. I'm hoping to retire by the time I'm 56. All right, if you found this video at all interesting or educational or entertaining, please go ahead and give it a like.